but a plan for giving you a plan for how to have your best summer ever, among other things. Let me welcome Master Smith.
Hello,
Did
hello.
you did you promote Bob to panelist? Let me see. Promote to panelist. There's Bob, and there's Master Moody. Promote to panelist, and it looks like we are good to go. Good to go. Um, and we are recording and going live and all that good stuff at the same time. Welcome, Master Moody. Welcome,
Hey, sir.
Grandmaster Jim Smith, Senior Master Moody. I guess I should get that straight. And welcome, Mr. Dunn. And let's get started here, guys. The kind of the main topic today, to me, is how to make summer your best summer ever. And I wanted to kind of start with two things and then get into the real meat of stuff here. But one is, I think, would you two or three agree with me that generally the industry thinks that summer is a slow time? They have to come up with all kinds of other things to do.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Our experience from two or three different angles, but our marketing experience has been that summer is one of the most fruitful times of the year, not a slow time. We've been having our members grow by as much as 100 active students in the 2 to 3 months over summer, having tremendous marketing results, but also excellent student service. Bob, you were talking about you made the mistake of showing up at somebody else's webinar or Zoom meeting or something like that, and they were talking about summer retention and really was in your words, correct me if I'm wrong, super simplistic and not very useful information. And maybe we should start with that briefly. We won't do too much on that piece of it, but for summer retention for students, um, we all hear a number of schools who say, well, my billing drops by X amount of money over the summer, right? And so they'll say, my billing was, pick a number, $20,000 a month, and I have $7,000 in people who want to pause their, stop paying for the summer, and then when they come back, they'll start paying again. To me, that's one of the dumbest things in the world. Is what happened to the industry? As a brief aside, is different gurus. Again, you guys know I'm not too charitable when I refer to it as a bozo explosion, but different people running around the industry went to easier and easier and easier and easier and easier ways of making a sale, all the way to the point of, frankly, nobody making a sale. Send them an email and give them a link if they want to do it. Um, all of which really downplays, reduces your gross, reduces the, it. I think it's Einstein's quote: "You want to make everything as simple as possible with no simpler." That's now becoming the too simple. Um, but we don't have Master Moody. Let me ask you and Master Smith about your schools and with our clients. We don't have any dip in billing. We don't have people wanting to stop their payments for the summer. Uh, what we have is we have a process where they've set a goal to Black Belt and beyond, and if they miss, and nowadays, of course, we're even doing classes on Zoom. So if they're grandmas for a month and a half, they can keep taking classes on Zoom. That was one of the benefits of the COVID disaster. But but even without that, we just say, okay, that's fine. We'll put your lessons on hold. When are you going to be back? Schedule a time for them to be back. Give them some makeup lessons to get them back on up to speed. We don't stop the payments. We don't put the payments on pause or anything else. I hear that all the time. And we just add the time to the end and get them made up. And mostly, what we try to do is at the beginning of the summer, like right now, sit down with each student and make sure we map out a course so that they don't get behind to their testing, they don't get behind on their progress, or if they're going to miss a significant period of time, let's say a couple of months, that we have a plan when they get back to get them back on track, and then, and by the way, know when they're going to be back, and just keep making the monthly payments, and then we add that to the end. You guys have anything that you would add to that
Yep.
before we move into marketing?
Well, I'd have two things to add to that. One is that it's not just the billing that goes down; it's the students that don't come back.
Right.
It's that's the real issue. Well, there's two real issues.
That's
Obviously, the billing
a
goes down,
big issue. Yeah. Yeah.
but the students don't come back. And the idea that when the students leave for the summer, there's this conceptual issue that that's a normal thing. And of course, I live in Arizona where it's 100 million degrees in the summer. That's only a slight exaggeration. You guys were just out here a little bit, and it
120 is
was.
hot. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes.
mean, so people leave in the summer. They say, well, that's different. You guys live where you live. Nobody lives in a more likely place that people are going to leave for the summer than where I live. And we do exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
And
Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates, but
yeah,
in
maybe,
the U.S.,
maybe.
you take the cake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the United States. We're probably on the top of the list, but the idea that they're going to leave for the summer is something we dealt with for a long time. But the key that you said, that's anchored into what you said, sir, is that the program is about setting the goal and the big picture for them becoming first degree, second degree, and beyond, so that the sale process is appropriate. And one thing that I think you said that I'm going to disagree with, but I think you're going to agree with what I'm saying is these guys are acting like the sale process is easier by diluting it to this lowest common denominator. But when we work with our clients, I think what they find over time is the sales process that we work with them with is actually easier in the end. I wouldn't say that what we do is harder. I think what we would recommend to our clients and what we do in our schools is actually easier because it's more based on outcomes and goals and what the real benefits of getting martial arts is, rather than this month to month and do it as easy as you possibly this what looks like easiest. It's a delusion that that's easier. And so those two things combine when this jumping through the summer and getting a really good retention and really good uh, success with your billing and also retention by the end of the summer goes hand in hand with setting really good goals and having a really strong sales system that in the end is truthfully easier if you do it correctly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess when I say that, it's people who just don't have much mastery of the process and certainly don't have the ability to replicate it through a number of people, the right kind of scripting process, tools, support mechanisms, and so forth. And so if you're not great at it yourself, and then you're trying to teach a whole bunch of people who aren't you, you're not great at it. That's the advantage that the three of us have is, Master Smith running the Junior Institute and running Jeff Smith Karate and then Mile High Karate, and you running up to 8 schools spread across 2 different states, and me running Mile High Karate, both as a big organization that I owned all the schools, and then as a franchise operation as well as all the levels of coaching, is we've had to learn to replicate ourselves, have tools, processes, scripting systems that make it super easy to ramp people up to replicate that. Matt Smith, anything that you would add to that before moving on? I just wanted to touch base on it briefly, but it is important that summer doesn't have to be a time that you lose anybody. And to me, as you said, Master Moody, is you've got to make sure that you don't give them an easy way to quit. If they're going to be in Disney for 2 weeks, or if they're going to be in Grandma's for 6 weeks, you got to come back. You have to have a plan of action to get them back up to speed when they come back. Again, nowadays, they can take classes on Zoom and get class credits and so forth, and not fall behind at all if they're in a spot where they could do that. So I don't see any reason why anybody falls behind. But the most important thing is having conversations with all your students now, before school's out, to get a sense of what their schedule's like over the summer, and if they're going to holidays, if they're going to have a month out, or again, if mom, maybe it's a divorce situation and dad lives in Poughkeepsie and they live in Phoenix, then have a plan on how they're going to keep training at dad's and how they're going to get back in the swing of it when they get back. Matt Smith, anything to add to that before we move
I
on?
think it's just the mindset. People like to envision that. Uh, I call it the loser's limp. Everybody's looking for excuse why their school's gross isn't going up, rather than finding the make it go up. And I find it's just the opposite, that summer is the easiest time to market to kids and adults, but kids in a particular time because they're all out of school. So when they're out of school, if I do a live event, I don't, during the school year, the only live events and things like that that I can really get kids involved in are on the weekend. Now I've got 7 days a week that I can market, whereas before I was only marketing on 2 days. Now kids are out doing activities. What you've got to do is be Sherlock Holmes and find out what activities those kids are going to, because they all do something in the summer. And then when we get into marketing, we'll talk about that. But I just want everybody's mindset to kind of take a 180 there and say, wow, I can't wait till summer. That's my biggest opportunity to market to these kids, because I got 7 days a week I can market now. I can go out and do these live events, and everything that is kids' activity is going to be bigger during the summer than they particularly are during the school year, because there's so less of the days.
Yeah, and regretfully, most of them feel like a hamster on a wheel. I mean, they build up their school, before summer, and then when summer hits, they expect them to have a major drop off every year. So, I mean, I feel bad for most of them, and a lot of the school owners. I can't see everybody who's on here today, but many of them I spoke with, and they're kind of in that stagnant zone. I mean, they're trying to build the school up, but yet they have the perception that they're going to have these major drop-offs in certain periods of the year, and they're actually preparing for it as if it's so, and it's not. Especially with our guys.
Yeah. And again, as a little bit of insight, but the time that most people in the industry thought were slow was summer and then November, December.
Yep.
And Master Smith, you saw the November, December for me and for you, at least back in what would it be, in the 70s, early 80s. And we have our best cash month of the year in December every month. But then we solved and I'll take credit for it, solved the marketing dilemma over the summer. And all of a sudden, we're just flooded with people. We never had a particular problem with people dropping out or with billing not being made. A little bit of had to work a little harder to keep people from dropping out. But other than that, we shifted many years ago to marketing methodologies that worked better in the summer than the rest of the year. And you alluded to that a minute ago. The one other thing, Bob, you mentioned to me about some of that other conversation is. There was conversation about using email and text messaging for retention, and absolutely one of the first thing you have to do is know when somebody has missed a class. And Nick Okinas many years ago referred to it as prophylactics versus therapeutics. Is you've got to pay attention to students, know that they're excited and enthusiastic, that they're on track for their goals, etc. And then if somebody starts to slip, they go from 4 times a week to 3 times a week to twice a week to once a week. You need to notice that and have a conversation. But also, if somebody comes on Tuesday, Thursday, and they miss Tuesday, you should know that and be communicating with them Tuesday or Wednesday very quickly and schedule makeup lessons. Now, I'm not a big fan anymore of email. I think it's fine to send them an email. It just, somebody's getting 2 emails a day. And by the way, most of that crap, most of the people you hear that are selling you software, right? So you hear, oh, yeah, we said it, so you scan them in and they get an email, hey, we missed you in class. Well, nobody gets a warm, fuzzy feeling about getting an email that we missed you in class. What you have to do is you have to have a concerned instructor making an outbound call. Moody, you're which I always forget, it's call,
CTE,
voicemail.
Call, text, email. CTE, call, text, email.
Call,
but
text,
make
email.
Sure that call implies if they don't answer the phone, do a voicemail. Call, text, email, CTE.
There you go. Call, text, email. So, a live person calls, they don't answer the phone. You leave a voicemail, a very friendly personal voicemail, and you text them at the same time, and then you send them an email. And you do that repetitiously until you get hold of them. And to me, direct mail and text message is the second most effective combination of communication after live outbound call. Now, a lot of the schools, their problem is that people just, well, everybody has a problem of people don't answer because it's almost 100% mobile now. They don't answer an unknown number. So you've got to make sure that every prospect gets your contact record into their phone. Every new intro gets their contact record into their phone. Because if they know it's you and you have a good relationship with them, a lot of them will answer the phone. However, if it's just an unknown number, then you're going to get 95% don't answer the phone. And by the way, for everybody on, I welcome Darren, Dave, David Pritchard, Jeff Cash, Jim Kessler, Joe Chow, John, Jonathan, Kendrick, a lot of familiar people, old friends there. Lance Soares, Pete Canavan, I'm not sure I can read that. Trevor Workington. Guys, we'll try to promote you in a second into what Zoom calls panelists and let you have open Q&A. And by the way, if you have any questions right now, I guess we have the live chat going here somewhere. Do we have that shut off, Master Moody, or not?
It looks like it's shut off, sir. I don't see
good.
it.
Good. We normally shut it off. What
Yeah.
we like to do is have people ask live questions. I guess you can raise your hand, but what we'll do is we'll give it a couple minutes and then promote everybody to panelists, and then feel free to ask questions. When we promote you to panelists, I would ask.
If I can add one more thing, Master Oliver, before you go into the marketing phase, what people forget to do is, you've got to keep a reason why all of those students have to be there in the summer at your school. So we always like to have a lot of special activities during the summer. We're going to have a school picnic that they can all join in on and have fun. We're going to have all kinds of seminars. We'll do a weekly theme during the summer. It'll be a superhero week where they get to wear their superhero t-shirts with their karate pants and belt. We'll do Hawaiian week, beach week. So you do different themes like that. And it was something that we picked up from our summer camps when we were doing the summer camps. When we had it advertised a certain thing that was going on.
Yeah, classes in the park in Colorado. You wouldn't do that in Phoenix, but you would do that in Colorado. Crazy hair day, water balloon day, all kinds of interesting, crazy stuff. However, the most important thing is just communicating with students, knowing what their schedule is, keeping them on track, having the long-term goals, and having a communication path. And then always year-round is missing them when they're in class, and a human being missing them, not a computer missing them. And then reaching out with that personal touch to make sure that you stay on top of that. And again,
could I just add one thing before this? Is the summer starts in, like now it's May, our school lets out, in the next week. We're already doing progress checks with everybody, and we already know what everybody's vacation plans are.
Yeah.
So everybody's vacation plans are already in our notes. So we already have a training plan for them before the summer goes out. So it's never a surprise people just disappear for 3 weeks, and then we're calling them, and of course we would if they miss. We're sending them miss you cards and things like that. We're still executing our process, but we know that they're gone for 3 weeks, so it's not a surprise. And we already have a plan for them to make classes up before or after they go, prior to them leaving. It's not just they're gone on their first week that they're on their Disneyland vacation. Now it's a surprise, and now they could have taken some extra classes before they left. So it's really easy to do that. You just ask them around this time of year, what's your vacation plans for the summer?
But don't fluff over that. I mean, what you're saying is exactly the magic ingredient, that piece of the puzzle that nobody else is really teaching and nobody is even doing. So, but that's what makes the difference right there. Having that communication and speaking with your students and finding out.
Well, and to be fair, Steve LaValle probably 15 years ago is that's something that they did very effectively. Is they sat down with every, and then again the bozo explosion. 2 or 3 of the people who are out claiming to be teachers, consultants. Their response to that even back then was, "Oh, that takes too much time. We don't have time to do that." Well, it takes an awful lot more time to get a new student than it does to keep the one you got. And it takes an awful lot more time to be out marketing all the time than it is to just be focused on and communicative with and really interested in your students. And if you treat the students like it's an amorphous 30 people at a class and it's a group after a group after a group, you lose them. But if you really treat each person as an individual, hold their hand, make sure they're on progress and so forth. And by the way, got to do that intensively in the first year. You got to do it much less intensively in the second year, third year. You've got to do that intensively before they're committed to train to black belt and beyond. Beyond that, it gets much easier. But what most people on this meeting are doing, I can absolutely guarantee, is their biggest dropout rate problem is in the first 6 months, and beyond that, it's in the first year, and it's getting people started smoothly. And if you enroll somebody in January, and then summer comes up, it's really easy for them to end up having dropped out as a gold belt or as a green belt and never get going again. That's why, Matt Smith, as you know, I've pissed off a lot of traditionalists by saying, almost everybody they touch sucks. But it's true, because almost everybody that ever enrolled in their school dropped out at gold belt, orange belt, green belt. They dropped out in the first year, and they never got very good to begin with. And as soon as they dropped out, they started getting. So don't tell me about how skilled your small number of black belts are. Tell me about what the average person you enroll achieves. And let's shift gears here. And I want to touch base on this briefly and then go full on into summer marketing. Master Smith, this is a post you made recently, and last time we did this, we had several of these people live on the meeting. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
But this was, Master Smith, congratulations to Tim Harrison for hitting 123,000 in April, and Paul Prendergast for hitting 134,800 in April. And these aren't the two superstars. This is two out of a bunch of people that we had that are zooming right up in the numbers. But let's talk about this. Tim Harrison is in what? Joliet. How do you say?
Joliet.
How do you say it?
Joliet.
Joliet, Illinois. Paul Pendergast is in Brick, New Jersey. They're not exactly in the two highest demographic or. And by the way, they're in the two of the areas that still laid into the pandemic. We're being effective by lockdowns and so forth. But here's a single school that not too long ago, Matt Smith, what would you say? About 4 years ago was in the low 20s.
Well, yeah, you go back 4 years. In 2019, he had gotten up to, he had just gotten up to 50. He was hitting the 50s in 2019. The pandemic hit. He was on a good growth towards the end of the year. I remember this real well because I was just at his school a couple weeks ago. And then the pandemic hit, and he was pissed off because he only had about a 6% growth in 2020. But
rather than a 20% as he was set his goals for.
Exactly. And then 21 hit, and he doubled his gross. He hit the $1 million mark in 21, and now he's continued that growth through this year. He's been hitting over the 100,000 mark every month now, and it's just showing. And he combined two things. It was a combination of doing enough marketing to get enough new students. I mean, he was getting 25 to 30 new students a month, and I think his average was 24 for the year. But what he had to fix was his dropout rate. A lot of people focus only on the marketing; they forget the dropouts. You gotta focus on your net enrollment. And when he started doing that, he started growing up over that 300 active student mark, and that's our magic numbers. That's 300 students paying an average of 300 apiece. Now you got $1 million school.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Question. I think Eric has a question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. What we got to do? I'm going to. You be promoting him. I'm going to go ahead and promote everybody to panelist, and then we're going to get going into summer marketing here. How's that? If we promote you to panelist, whoops.
Eric has his hand up right now. If you
yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Unmute yourself, Eric.
The number one phrase people don't want to hear in 2020. You're muted. But go ahead,
Yeah.
Eric. You gotta unmute yourself so you can.
Yeah, this was a Christmas present.
Yeah, we can't unmute you, Eric. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm just going to promote everybody to panelists, and then you guys come on video and you can ask questions as we go.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with this format, Eric, in the bottom left hand of your screen, there'll be a mute button that you can click on to mute or unmute.
Okay, so we're going to ignore the raised hand. And again, anybody has questions, feel free to jump in. We'll promote you to panelists. Jump on video here for us rather than having your video turned on. If you have some questions, and then we'll feel free to just keep rolling. And then anybody who has questions, feel free to jump in and try to stay on topic here. But I wanted to share that we have a
John for the picture, and Joe for the picture there. I see Joe's got an actual moving picture. That's
there you
good.
go.
We
There
know
you
it's a real live person. John, at least we've got your face in there to tie it with the name.
Yeah,
There's John. There's our other John. We got two Johns. We got John and Joe too.
yeah. So moving right along here, I wanted to go to this, and from and guys, again, any questions at all, just jump in and ask questions. We're happy to answer any questions here, and what we're going to do is hide anybody who's not on video, but feel free to ask questions. Anybody who's been promoted to panelist is free to talk, and if you're but I do think you have to accept it first to get in here. So I'll go through one more time, and then let's get started on summer marketing. Let me ask everybody who has joined us, what have you been effective with on marketing over the summer in the past? Lance, you've been around forever. What are some of your marketing successes in the summer?
We've done we used to call it our 8 weeks of Sizzle in Summer, but basically themed weeks that we do. And we generally attach we have an attendance contest. And every time they come into class, they get one ticket. If they, in the past, we've done it if they took a photo on vacation with a t-shirt and sent it into us, or tagged our school on Facebook, that would give them 5 tickets. If they came to an event, they'd get 10 tickets, things like that. And then we would raffle off stuff like, we raffled off a go-kart. One year was yeah, that was pretty cool.
I'm gonna get tickets. How do I get them? I want to go kart.
So, but things like that, just to keep the students engaged and coming in. So we've done that, and then just going out to events. There's a huge festival where we're at. It's like almost a week long, and we've done that before, garnering leads that way and things along those lines.
And Lance, just to clarify for everybody, a lot of people do these live events and they come away with no appointments. See, our thing is not just get a lead. That means we have their contact information, but actually get an appointment on the spot. So have you had good success getting appointments there?
That we haven't. We did some in the past, early on when we opened the school, that we did do appointments. We ended up doing a mass intro. And then the other event that we haven't done that.
You don't have to do a mass intro.
Mass. We'll go back and talk about that in a second. Lance, let's start with the first thing you said. Strangely enough, the most effective that I ever had with that, which is, it sounds so stupid, I hate to say it out loud, but the second most effective was I used to promote this big damn tournament, right? So I had the Mile High Karate Classic for 10 years. Anybody who's thinking about doing that, I must tell you, don't. But it was. I often talked to the NASCA other national promoters at the time, and I had the most highest bottom line of any of them. Not particularly from the tournament, but from the renewal. that I reaped from it for my own students. And then Matt Smith took a page out of your book and figured out I could do the renewals without having the headaches of the event. But where I was going with that is you always have a jillion trophies left over because, stupidly, they keep thinking that you get more competitors, divisions, more divisions, more divisions, more divisions. So hence you have a bunch of divisions with like one soft style 85 and up soft style woman, right? And I'm slightly exaggerating, but the second most effective I did wasn't a PS2 or flash screen TV or anything. It was first, second, third trophies left over from the tournament, right? So it was the junk in the warehouse, cleaning out the junk. The first most effective I ever had, and what I mean by effective is from the standpoint of the kids getting excited and bringing friends and so forth. The second most effective I've ever had, and this is the one that really sounds stupid, is I went through my closet. And we've done Mile High Karate gear going back to 1983. Master Smith, you remember that jump sidekick picture of me that ended up being used as not NBL, but the Sky logo, and it was on all of EFC's envelopes and contracts for years and all that stuff. I only used it once, and I used it once to make jackets and so forth in 1983 until you made fun of it because the line drawing looked like my toes were up in the air. And so I went through my closet and pulled out all the old dated, silk, nylon jackets we had done, and T-shirts and tournament shirts, and over the years you accumulated a jillion of that stuff. I went through my closet, pulled out all my old used stuff. We put it all on the walls, and it wasn't my idea. It was one of the staff members, and I said, "You got to be kidding me. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." He goes, "No, they'll love it." And so he took out all this old crap that had been around forever. But it was like the 1983 stuff, the 1992 stuff, the 1997 stuff. And that was the single most effective thing is we put all that stuff on the wall and said, whoever brings the most, gets the most points gets first choice. Whoever brings the second most gets second choice. And they were eating up this like historic archive of Mile High Karate history, and phrased the way I'm phrasing it, it sounds ridiculous, and the way the instructors phrased it, it sounded like, oh my goodness, and Master Smith, I guess I'm no better, when Master passed, you and I were talking about what treasures are there in the in the warehouse there that nobody else might value, but we would. So that was the second most effective. All the stuff I did over the years, like big expensive gifts, didn't make anywhere near the impact as used T-shirts and the first, second, third place trophies. Believe it or not, but you make a good point there, Lance. On 2 points is one is having a lot of different reasons for running referral events, and from a standpoint of referrals, summer can be more effective than any other time of the year because all the ones who are in town are bored looking for something to do. The parents are looking for something for the kids to do. So the way you structured it is great. But with referral events, I guess saying it differently, what within the industry people started to think is I print a bunch of guest passes and I give all my students guest passes and they love me so much they'll go sell their friends on it and they'll give them a guest pass. Well, that doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work at all. It just doesn't work very well, right? But what does work is 2 types of events. Is an event where one student brings 20 or 30 friends, something like a birthday party, a pizza party, some kind of celebration for a person, or any event where 40% of your students bring an average of 1.5 friends each, right? And then when you're doing the second version of events like that, what you have to do is you have to have the promotional tools for the students to help them sell and sell it. And by the way, over the years, the 2 schools I've seen that had the biggest referral traffic, one was everyone who tested, but especially the first couple of tests, you're required to bring a couple of witnesses. And then they had the program director outside the school getting information filled out, making a follow-up appointment, and everybody had to bring a witness for all the graduations. And they built it up not as a test, but as a big, exciting graduation, split it up by ranks. Of course, almost all your referrals come from people in the first 6 months, and even stronger with white belts. So we waste a lot of time trying to get referrals from brown belts, when now the only people they really hang out with are other students. What we should do is focus really hard on the new students. The second one was, driving. They were running like a little Chuck E. Cheese on the weekends, running birthday parties. So birthday party, birthday party, birthday party, birthday party. Just a massive birthday party activity that was then translated into enrollments. But Lance, that's a great idea. One of the times I did that, by the way, is we gave them points for bringing their school directory and gave them points, for bringing names, addresses, and phone numbers of friends who they'd given information to who hadn't yet come into an event. And by the way, I ended up with school directories for every local school that we ended up mailing to. Now you have to be a little careful about that because they get a little annoyed. But we ended up with an incredible mailing list as a result of that too. Master Smith, let's go back to what you were saying, and let me share another screen here. And, this isn't, don't worry about the specific categories yet, but what I believe that almost everybody misses is, and I freely admit I stole this from Jay Abraham, the terminology years ago, but is the idea you've got to build a Parthenon. And by a Parthenon, picture the structure in Greece or or the one in Nashville, for that matter, and there's a whole bunch of pillars all the way around holding it up. Is if you don't have things going on every month to promote your school, you're in all likelihood not going to have enough stuff going on to generate 20 new enrollments a month. And what gets missed on this is every one of us have the occasional marketing home run. And we have a bunch of them in our tool bag. But because I have the one thing that can generate 150 appointments, 75 intros, 35 enrollments, doesn't mean even that month that thing's happening, that should be all I am doing. And part of it is what I learned back in the 80s is Murphy's Law is real. As soon as you have the one thing that's going to a week going on, half the time it seems like here it'd be hail and tornadoes or a blizzard would get us, depending upon what it was. Or I've had it be the entire had the power out all week, or the city decided to tear up the area in front of the parking lot and nobody could get into the thing and you had to be closed down. Murphy's Law is real. You've always got to recognize that the best laid plans oftentimes go awry, and you got to have a bunch of other things going on. So you've got to have the Parthenon. You've got to have a whole bunch of different pillars always going on at any one time. So that's why I wanted to kind of start with this is, Master Smith, as you say, you got to have your online stuff going on, and by that I mean social media. Facebook's kicking butt right now. SEO, pay-per-click. So you've got to have the website well positioned. You got to have it where it converts. You've got to have pay-per-click with dedicated landing pages, strong follow-up systems with that. You've got to have an effective social media marketing. Again, we're doing great with Facebook and have been for several years now. But you got to have that in line. The second thing you've got to have in line is all kinds of referral systems internally, like what you mentioned, Lance, to drive lots of traffic internally. You've got to have effective advertising going on, and that might be, newspaper, print, magazines, whatever it might be. And of course, some of that stuff has kind of died off over the years. And you've got to have effective community outreach activities, local elementary schools, daycares, any number of things. So let me, I will stop that for a second and move on. But Lance, let's go back to Master Smith. Let's go back to what you had mentioned as far as live events. Is years ago we could do live events. So let's an example I overuse a lot is we have the Boy Scout Jamboree here. Something like 30,000 Boy Scouts show up once a year, and it's a huge event. And each of the packs, or no, I forget, pack, troop, big, small. But each of the groups, they do like displays and things that the kids can climb on or they can build or one thing or another. So we would set up there, and we'd bring a bunch of swing mats. We'd have a little classroom set up. We would promote it all over the place. It's done. We would literally have like 4 leaf bag, big black garbage bags full of leads, and it was just an amazing event. But back then, what I knew is that if I had a whole bunch of leads, I could put 10 or 15 people on making outbound calls on Sunday night, and we were going to get what, about an 80-90% answer rate, and a very high conversion to appointments from there. Is if I put a gang of people on the phone, 95 out of 100 don't answer an unknown number, right? Because almost always the number we're going to get is mobile, and people are hesitant about spam, so they have an awful lot of spam calls, so they just don't answer their phone. So, and I'll say it was because of that, but mostly we learned our lesson, I think, before that happened, is what we learned an awful long time ago. Run a live event and make appointments on the spot, is it saves an awful lot of that effort, and the conversion rate ends up being an awful lot higher. So we'll run a live event, run them through, like, let's say somebody's in a costume to draw traffic, have a prize wheel that they spin to win a prize. They'll fill out a form ahead of time. As soon as they fill out the form, they win the prize, and they win whatever it might be. Let's say it's a free uniform, and then we schedule them for a free week or a couple free weeks of lessons and schedule an appointment right then and there. And what would you say, Master Moody, with the right scripting, we'll get 90% plus or minus?
90-95%.
Yeah. Worst case, 75%, probably typically 85-90% of everybody who fills out the form will make an appointment on the spot. And then what we'll do is we'll, one, make sure we share the contact records so we're in their phone. Two is we'll make sure we put them in a follow-up sequence where they're going to get email, voicemail, text message for confirmation of the appointment. And, of course, a live person will call and confirm. Plus, we'll make sure hopefully they leave with a big bundle of information, plus we mail them a big bundle of information. So take and that's where you were going a minute ago, Master Smith, is over the summer, know that historically the big movie blockbusters have been summer blockbusters, or they've been holiday. Marvel has changed that dynamic in recent years. Of course, absent COVID, is made it where a big spring blockbusters, right? So you had in the fall, you had Spider-Man as a Marvel. DC, you had Batman, did big numbers, and then you have this last weekend you had Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange, by the way, COVID's done. You had $198 million opening weekend gross. You had a $90 million gross on Friday night alone. So, and that probably includes Thursday numbers. I'm not sure about that. So again, we've had members who got as much as 150 appointments in a weekend. Now, make it perhaps a more realistic number. I go out for Friday, Saturday, and get 100 appointments, which will be maybe 110 leads. But I get 100 appointments. I'll have half of them show up, so I get 50, sometimes 75%, but worst case 50%. So 100 appointments is going to be 50 intros. 50 intros is going to be 25 or more. So it's going to be 50 or more intros, and it's going to be 25 or more enrollments. So kind of the worst case number is 75%. Half of them show up, half of them enroll. And the best case number is about 90%, 75%, 75%, but you get the idea. So if you were out there for Top Gun, and you're out there for Thor, and you're out there for Doctor Strange, and then you're out there for whatever the other big blockbuster coming out this summer, slipping my mind right now.
Lightyear.
But say it again.
Lightyear.
Yeah, Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear movie.
Yeah, so the Buzz Lightyear movie is you just fill it up. And by the way, is martial artists think that it has to be some martial arts related film. But the reality is I learned my lesson years ago, is when Karate Kid 1, this is how far back this goes, comes out, I already knew about what Junri Institute had done when Enter the Dragon came out. Right, Master Smith? So when Enter the Dragon came out, because of course Junri and Bruce Lee were good friends. Of course, Bruce Lee had already passed by then. But I knew, I had heard the stories about all the stuff that when Enter the Dragon came out and so forth. So when Karate Kid 1 came out, of course, it was a sleeper. Nobody knew it was going to be a big hit. I was out in the theaters that weekend. And so then you had a run of Karate Kid 1, 2, 3, 4. You had Ninja Turtles, you had Power Rangers, you had all that stuff. So I did not yet know that didn't have to be a martial arts movie. But if any of you remember Karate Kid 4, and I think about 5 people in the U.S. saw it, but it was Hilary Swank's debut role, and where she played the Karate Kid, we were set up, and basically I spent a fortune. This is, Greg, you remember, this is the one hired a big ad agency, and we did elaborate stuff, one thing or another, for Karate Kid 4. Well, what saved my ass is it turned out to be the debut weekend of the first Batman movie, the Michael Keaton version, right? And so when the Michael Keaton Batman movie came out, people were buying movie tickets just to see the Batman trailer weeks before the movie came out. This is, of course, pre-YouTube. And we had our biggest weekend ever on the movie promotion when practically no one saw. I mean, in the movie we were watching, it was only theater staff taking a break, taking their 15-minute break, sitting in the Karate Kid 4 theater because there was no other customers in there. Were the only ones that were in there watching the Hilary Swank movie. But people were flocking to the Michael Keaton Batman movie, and we had one of our best times ever. So that was when I learned my lesson is, it doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. It just has to be a blockbuster, and it has to be a theater that's a big theater, and it has to be a blockbuster. And so that's a huge revelation. The other thing, as you said, Matt, is I know in Denver and Master Moody, Phoenix has a little different dynamic. You have good weather 9 months of the year, and you don't want to have an outdoor event in July type of weather. But over the summer when the kids are out of school, there's all kinds of events that go on. Matt Smith, you said this a minute ago, is you put your detective hat on and you say, where are all the kids over the summer? Well, let's see. Some of them are at the local swimming pool. Some of them are at all the summer camps. Some of those summer camps don't even have a physical location. They have a bus that picks them up at a location. They take them to a movie theater. They take them to a pool. They take them to a park. They take them somewhere else. So they're there.
To your karate school.
Exactly. Yeah, we've had it be where the bus shows up at our martial arts school. The driver gets off and gives us a list of all the kids with the parents' names and the parents' contact information, sometimes including mailing address, usually mobile number, and email. But we've had it where 5 or 6 of them show up a day, and the kids all get off and they do basically a big first intro, and then move through from there. So over the summer, you have July 4th events. In Canada, it's Canada Day events. You have Memorial Day, Labor Day events. You have taste of type of events. You have music festivals. You have all kinds of kids activities. We see here shopping centers will set up a big inflatable movie screen and show like kids movies in the parking lot or in the park. Those have been incredibly productive. Farmers markets have been productive. But all of those live events, and one of our clients, Colby Winkler, he did a marathon. So I think it was, I don't know how long a marathon, but a marathon. But he had a booth out there for 4 hours, and managed. Matt Smith, what was the numbers? Do you remember that?
He got 150 leads. He ended up with 50 enrollments. Was the bottom line. And
from a 4-hour marketing event.
And that wasn't even the home run. The home run was when he did 200,000 in December because he renewed 50 students. And he had just started his renewal blitz. He hadn't done renewals much before that. He was a new member with us at that time, or hadn't engaged in the full blown renewal program. If I could go back just for a second, not to miss a point there that you made. On the summer camps, a lot of people think they have to have summer camps. We found that we actually got more students by going to other people's summer camps. And all we did was go in and talk to all the camps that were going in our area and offered them as part of our community outreach program that we would do a 6-lesson, 3-week program coming in twice a week for an hour, and do an anti-bullying seminar. And we found that we were able to get enough students from doing that was much more effective than any of our summer camps that we did ourselves to get new students. So there's hundreds of these summer camps all over your area if you can find them. And when you talk to them, at least half of them are going to be open to having you come in even at this last minute, because they're looking for things to keep the kids busy during the summer. And if you're giving them an hour of your time as part of your community outreach to help kids in your area on the bully prevention, it's an easy sell. And then you offer all those kids, you get a permission slip, and then you offer them 2 weeks free or a week free at your school and free uniform. And now you get a good portion of them showing up and enrolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're always struggling for what? Staffing and activities, right? So, I mean, you're absolutely right, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, those are pretty easy. I mean, this is low hanging fruit stuff, but there's a lot of other stuff that we want to help you with, these are just some pieces of what the overall program should be, with at least 20 things happening in your school each month. So don't make a mistake that these are the only things that you should be doing.
No, we're just scratching the surface. Literally just scratching.
How Tim Harrison, most people can't imagine when they see that 123, they go, is that his yearly gross? And we go, no, that was his monthly gross. And Paul Pendergrass, the same thing with the 134.
And that's not multiple schools.
Yeah. Or Jan with 143,000. We could go through the list. Delfino with 82,000, I believe. Going through the list. What's funny to me, Master Smith, is the bozo explosion. I keep kind of turning in from time to time to their stuff, and I've heard my name brought up a couple times. Oliver says that there are $1 million schools. There's no such thing as $1 million school. Well, yeah, there are. We got 12, 15 of them. In fact, I had a bunch of them inflation adjusted back in the late 80s and in the 90s. So yeah, absolutely there is. It's the right combination of the average student value or average revenue per student, really strong retention, price points, and then having the marketing part on so you can put enough people in the door. And again, these are not, just to clarify, these are not schools doing transported after school care. These are not schools pulling in the money from big summer camps. These are not schools that are running 5 different curriculums. They're mostly running one curriculum, typically traditional Taekwondo or MMA or BJJ, whatever it might be. So they're running one curriculum. They're doing what they're doing exceedingly well. They're getting their student dropout rate down to between 1% and 2% a month. They're putting in enough students to, and $1 million a year school is just 300 active students. So 300 active students at $300 average revenue per student with a low dropout rate. That's what that is, and that's a $500,000-$600,000 a year net.
And Master
Bob,
Oliver, Master Oliver, I don't know if you mentioned either, is that just to make a note that many of these are just single school operators. So we're not talking about somebody with 5, 7 different schools locations. So
I think all of them are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have multi-school chains, but what we're talking about is per unit, per location revenue, not organization-wide location. Let's take a pause there. Any questions so far, guys? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead,
Good
Joe.
to see you, Joe. Joe's a friend of Stephen D. Costello. I'm glad to see you on here, Joe. And you're getting ready to
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Very kind of you. Shihan told me, and I found it remarkable that, and then you just iterated it about a minute ago, that you charge $300 per student, and I have never heard of anything like that before. What is it that you would offer that make it that value? Because the most I've ever charged is $185.
Magic sauce.
Yeah, I will start by saying you're asking the wrong question, and give me half a second. I'm a little bit diverted. Bob, we have another meeting starting in about 6 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And Zoom, in its infinite wisdom, is locking me out because of wanting to email me an access code that I'm not receiving. If you might get Merrick to intercept that email at the server and get us logged in there so we don't miss our next meeting, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But anyway, here's where I say you're asking the wrong question, Joe. Is the first part of the answer is this: is what people think. And by the way, my deficit in education is I'm an economist by education, and economists think in terms of price elasticity. And take a commodity like gasoline. Gas prices have been going way up. What happens in the market is when gas prices go up, demand goes down. There's a direct inverse relationship. Is people drive less, they figure out alternatives to use instead one thing or another. Airline tickets. We've had some member meetings recently, and airline tickets went from 250 a round trip to 850 a round trip. And then when airline tickets spike, then people don't travel as much, and so forth. But we think in terms of you raise the price, demand goes down. We're in an industry where it's the opposite of that. And there are other industries that are like that. If you're going to get open heart surgery, you're going to get brain surgery, you have a serious tax problem, you have a nasty divorce, you have a custody fight. All of those are examples where you want the best CPA, you want the best attorney, you want the best surgeon, you want the best doctor. You don't want the cheapest, you want the best, right? And my argument about martial arts is it's a horrible idea to try to price compete with anybody who also teaches martial arts, because what they want is the best school in town. They don't want the cheapest school in town. And so what happens is, and there's a great book by Robert Cialdini called Influence, Science, and Practice. And one of his first premises, or I think it is the first premise in the book, is absent other objective criteria, price determines perception of value. So high price means in people's mind it's high quality. Low price means it's low quality. He uses an example of, like turquoise sold in a gift shop in Arizona, I think it was, since he's from Arizona. But he talks about they doubled the price in the gift shop and went from selling zero to selling it out. Martial arts is like that. So, Joe, the first piece is that if you're in the same price range as everybody else, and anybody price shops, they assume you're no better than anybody else. If you're at the high end or higher than anybody else, is they assume that you're really good. And frankly, the decision-making process that students go through in deciding about a school is this an activity that we want to do? Do we like these people? Do we feel comfortable in this? And then the last question they ask themselves, and they don't ask them in parallel, they ask series. If you know what I mean, they go 1, 2, 3. Is the last thing they ask themselves is, will it fit into the budget? Can we afford it? Right? And you certainly will, as you leverage prices, occasionally get people, especially if your marketing is fishing in the wrong pond, to be able to afford it. But if you're getting a lot of people who aren't able to afford it, the problem is your marketing. The problem is not the price, right? It's who you're targeting. So the first long answer to that question is you're asking the wrong question. Is, how do you get people to pay more? You ask, and then their perspective of what you're doing tends to be higher. Do you always want to layer on more value? Of course you do. Do you want to layer on more aspects of personal development, more aspects of goal setting and so forth? Of course you do. But is that necessary to leverage up your pricing? Not at all. Now, the second element of that is that we'll do, and this is, getting more advanced. We don't have much time to talk about it because you just start to have another meeting starting in 45 seconds. But the other element is we're doing an enrollment and then a renewal. And the renewal, the term that some people use is upgrade. I don't like that because it misrepresents what it is. But the renewal can be at a much higher price point than the initial enrollment once you build the value of what that is. And Joe, we have all kinds of references for that. Look at milehighblackbelt.com. It's got an infomercial on week 5 that talks about the renewal process and what we do and so forth. And I think we lost Master Smith and Master Moody to start my other meeting, so that's good. Did we get logged in, Bob?
Merrick is calling me right now, sir. So
okay.
Go ahead.
I hate when these idiots send you an email to log in, and then the email gets spam blocked and everything else, and by the time you get the email, it's expired, and so I've always loved Zoom, but they have ended up in the idiot column for me today. By the way, I've always loved Disney, and I just had an impromptu trip with my son to Disneyland, and they let the 20-somethings run the show a little bit too much in their recovery here. We went to Cars Land, and they have the big orange cones, and each of the orange cones is like one of them's ice cream, one of them's popcorn or something, one of them's drinks. But you had to have the Disneyland app. You had to order an ice cream cone on the Disneyland app, and then pick it up 20 or 30, and pay for it on the Disneyland app, and then pay for it 20 or 30 minutes later. And some 28-year-old at corporate thought that was a great idea. And what it did, in my observation, is about 50% of the sales they would have gotten, they lost, because it's an impulse item, and nobody was going to go to the app and wait 20, 30 minutes to get the thing while they're on their way to Space Mountain or whatever they were going to next. So there's an awful lot of evidence of stupidity if you watch what happens around the world. One last question, and then we'll have to run and go to our next meeting. What I would point out, guys, is for all of you, Bob, I'm sure you have or will reach out. Give them your phone number real quick, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Master Moody is in, so we're fine on the other.
We solved the problem. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 720-256-0208. It's 720-256-0208.
Yeah. Give Bob a call, and Master Smith and I'd be happy to chat with you about how to accelerate your progress. What I can tell you is an awful lot of people who have been running a school for an awful long time have perhaps taken advice from people who are well-meaning, who are good at getting them from 7,000 a month to 12, or from 5 to 10, or from 10 to 15. But they weren't good at getting them from 15,000 a month gross to 15,000 a month net, and then getting them from 25,000 or 30,000 a month gross to 4,000 a month net. And some of the high-profile people who are all close friends of mine are running high gross, low net, high brain damage, high complication businesses, where you should be doing the opposite. You should be looking for low brain damage, low complications, simple, high net, high student service, high quality businesses. And none of that implies any level of watering down what you're doing. It's all about improving the quality of your service, improving the quality of your martial arts, but then having the staff get paid exceedingly well, and then have you get paid exceedingly well at the end of the day. Hey, Joe, again, you're a friend of Stephen D. Castillo's. You've seen the kind of numbers he's been doing recently. And his numbers, give me a pass if I butcher it a little bit. Pre-COVID, when he wasn't working with us, he was doing 28, 30,000 a month, in that range. Does that probably sound familiar? And then COVID hit, and he was down to about 15 to 17. And reached out to me in a little bit of desperation, because in the resources of his mind, I think he had read one of my book one day. And since then, we have him now in the 80s. Does that sound about what he said recently, Joe, and what his numbers are?
The last time I spoke with him, he said he did 60, and I thought that was pretty impressive with only 200 students.
No, he's been running mid 60s to 80 pretty consistently, and that's up from 17,000 in COVID, but to be fair, he was at 30 ahead of time. So pretty good growth trajectory, and he continues to be on a real accelerated growth path.
Yeah, every month it's higher. Yeah.
Yeah, he's down in your neck of the woods, Bob. He's down in.
He's actually in the middle of nowhere. I think it's Lutz, right, Joe? Master Oliver, we talk about Master Lappin up in Middleburg, Florida, right? Which is south of Jacksonville, middle of nowhere.
Or Colby in Mankato, Minnesota.
Yeah, where Stephen D. Castillo is, though, it's even more rural. So it's out there in the woods. Yeah, so I mean that's why it blows me away when I talk to school owners and they talk about, well, you don't know my demographics. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I got some that might beat what you're dealing with. So
Yeah, so you don't have to be in Manhattan. In fact,
correct.
last couple of years have been the worst time in the world to be in Manhattan. Um, but
How you?
yeah, well, it's been the worst time in the world to be in a blue state. Um, to add to that, Colorado was kind of halfway sane, halfway crazy. Um, Florida was sane, and I was just in L.A. and L.A. is still crazy, but it's coming out of its crazy a little bit. We had to give vaccine cards and one thing or another just to get into the Doctor Strange world premiere and meet some of the cast members and stuff. I always thought that was interesting since the vaccine doesn't seem to keep you from transmitting the disease or getting it. It keeps you from going to the hospital if you have it. But so I'm not sure why I would, why they're concerned that I'm not going to go to the hospital. They should be concerned about I'm not going to give it to anybody else. But anyway, any last questions, and we'll call it a day. I'm sorry that we didn't get as far as I would like, but as usual, I come with 5 hours of material for an hour's worth of time to squeeze it in.
Yes, sir. Just a quick question. I know you were talking about getting appointments at events and things along those lines. A lot of times when we go out there, there's no Wi-Fi access or anything like that where we can access our CRM or anything like that. What kind of suggestions would you give for an event like or something along those lines?
Well, rule number one is never rely on software, right? So, anytime you try to rely on, I have 5 iPads and I'm having them register on my iPad. I'm doing all that. That's certain death, because again, it's Murphy's law. I don't have good Wi-Fi connection. I don't have a good cellular connection. Plan on doing a cellular hub. The software craps out. The software moves more slowly than I'm expecting. It just always goes bad, right? We always keep it analog. So I have 50 clipboards, 50 forms for them to fill out, prize wheel with different prize listed on it. We don't give away any prizes there. They have to come to the school. And then we make an appointment as soon as they spin the wheel. And by the way, on appointments ahead of time, we're in our mind going, okay, if we get 100 appointments, where do we put them? So we'll have Monday at this time, Monday at this time and this time, Tuesday at this time, Wednesday at this time, and just go through the week. And so we'll have our normal times that we'd slot intros aside, and then maybe book them over at the same time as a brown belt class or as an advanced class or something. Hell, I put them on the same time. I've had 50 intros in when we had our black belt prep class. So now I had 50 assistant instructors with 50 intros and put them to work. So you start with, here's all the times I'm going to book. And then what we'll do is we'll cap them out at about 10 or 12 per spot, knowing it's not even half. If I have 15 on Monday, I'm going to have 5 reschedule, and I'm going to have 7 no-show. And so I by the time I'm done, I have a tolerable size class, right? So I can put 10, 12, 15 at a time, knowing that I'm going to get a percent they're going to reschedule, a percent that are going to no-show. Again, the overall numbers will be, for every appointment I make, I'll end up with at least half, sometimes 75%, but at least half will come in for an intro. Of the intros we have, we'll have sometimes 75%, but at least half will enroll. So I've got to be able to accommodate that flow. Does that make sense, Lance? So
It does.
Rule number one is don't rely on software. Rule number 2, when you're out like that, don't rely on iPads or internet connection or any of that crap. It gets in the way. Murphy's law is real. And again, simplify. 50 clipboards with 200 pins and pins that are on little, plastic things like they used to do at the banks to the clipboards. And you hand them clipboards as they line up in the line. And then I have, Monday at this time or at this time, Tuesday at this time or this time, which works best. And the other, by the way, important piece of it is if you don't have the scripting for, I need to go back and talk to my wife, husband, whatever, look at our schedule, then you end up with 25, because the majority of them say some version of that, right? Let me go home and check with my schedule. I'll get back to you. And how many of them get back to you?
Almost none of them.
Yeah, none. We'll say, oh no, I understand. let's look at, it's going to be pretty busy this week. Let's look at tentatively. We can pencil something in, give you our contact information. If that doesn't work, just let us know. Tentatively, do you think Monday or Tuesday is good? Usually that ends up with a conversation of, well, I know where I work Monday night, and Tuesday night is we have scouts or church or something. What do you have later in the week? Well, we have Wednesday at this time, Thursday at this time, Saturday. Oh, I can do Thursday. I'm pretty sure that works. Okay, well, let's Thursday. Here's our email, phone number, etc. We'll follow up and confirm anyway, but we'll have it penciled in for Thursday. If that doesn't work, just let us know so we don't hold a spot that somebody else might be able to come in for. And so now you shift it from 25% to 75% pretty quickly.
Now, you would that be when you were talking about having them come in? Is it like a mass? You're doing a mass intro you're talking about for those people that schedule, say, on a Monday or?
How do you define a mass intro?
Anything more than one.
Well,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I've heard people describe mass intros as I bring in 20 people, present the pricing as a group, and then sign them up as a group. I don't like that.
No, neither do I.
But if it's here's 10 people for the first intro time, and then I'm going to reschedule them as a group and individually, and then set them for maybe a beginner's class, and I'm going to enroll them one-on-one. That works great, right? So I've never seen a group conversation work better than individual conversations, and I've never seen a group conversation be worth the offset of the flaky enrollments you do, the drop-off that you do, everything else that comes from the lack of much of a relationship there.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's why I was trying to define the terms. Yeah, I mean, we'll do an intro with 5 people, 7 people, 9 people. Hell, at elementary schools, oftentimes we have 60 kids. But we're still then interacting with mom and dad and the kid individually, talking to them individually about the time to come in, sitting down and doing an individual enrollment one-on-one from there.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
it'll get hairy. I mean, personally, my personal record is 38 enrollments in one day, and I think 70 or 75 in a month. Outside of grand openings, with grand openings, I was always doing like 100 in the first month. But I don't recommend that. I mean, the 38 in one day, number one, is you're practically pissing in a jar under the desk. And number two is it's still kind of sloppy compared to what it would be if it was paced out a little bit better.
Certainly. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. Any other quick questions? No, anyway, guys, we'd love to go ahead, Joe.
Sorry to keep asking so many questions.
No.
We relocated to a different state.
Yeah.
We used to be in Miami, Florida, and I sold my school there, and we moved to North Carolina, and I just signed a lease for a commercial building here in Hendersonville, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I guess this is something I could do privately, so not interrupt you guys. But I like the idea of going to the summer camps, because there's a lot of summer camps here. Mm-hmm. Because it's there's a lot of wilderness here, and promoting a brand new school. I'd like to possibly talk with you guys about that.
Let's set up a time to chat. I mean,
yeah, sure. Master Oliver, since I have the 3 of them on here, I got Master Smith, believe it or not, is heading out to Sacramento next week. So he's gone all next week. Would you guys, let me start with you, Joe. Are you free tomorrow? You're going to be Eastern time?
Yes.
I've got Wednesday. How would you be at 11 a.m. tomorrow?
No, I'm at a doctor's office tomorrow at that time.
How about
Can it be afternoon or earlier? Like, I have an appointment at 10 o'clock, and when you're in a doctor's office, you're there for a while.
Yeah, I got you. How about as 3 p.m.?
3 p.m. Yeah, we can do 3 p.m.
Okay. So, and then 3 Eastern, and then I'll make sure that we set up the reminder and a follow-up. I'll let Master Smith know. And then how about you, Lance? You got a time tomorrow that works for you? Where are you located? You're in Massachusetts, right?
That's correct.
Yep. So you're Eastern time as well. So would 12 o'clock work for you?
12 tomorrow,
Yes, sir.
Wednesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday would work. Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
could do
right.
that.
12 o'clock. What's a good cell phone for you? Just so I can make sure it's on the reminder.
Sure. 508
You got it. Okay.
813
3. Okay.
8351.
Okay. And Joe, I know I got yours. We've been communicating. And then how about you, Darren? How are you? Good. Tomorrow. You're on mute. Again, I hate to say that.
Here.
I wish they would let us unmute, help unmute, you know, I mean, if you're an
Well,
admin.
they used to. That was. I'm sure it was teachers, teaching groups, and then unmuting and privacy issues and so forth. But
Gotcha. All right. Well, if you're having a challenge, Darren. Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay. I think I figured it out. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I recently came into a problem with, I think it was 2 students. I tried signing up and then they completely just ghosted us and haven't been returning our calls. I signed them up and then when I tried charging their account, basically they completely ghosted us. So I don't know. That's basically my main problem right now. Trying to get some of the other students back on the mat. So
Okay.
yeah, well, yeah, we can walk through that. You know, there if you're closing hard enough, let's say, you're always going to have some people who commit to things that they really didn't overextended themselves, and so there's going to be from time to time somebody who falls apart. You know, in my own schools, you know, when I had 6 locations with, you know, branch managers, program directors, the person who had the highest number of people who did that was me, and the person who had the second highest number was my number 1 performing program director. But what was happening is basically nobody walked in the office with me without closing, and a few of them overcommitted. And the same thing with him. So I'd rather be in the case of being good at getting people excited and closing, and then having occasionally somebody back out than losing a bunch of people who would have enrolled otherwise and would have been great students. So that's a way to reframe that for yourself, Darren. Where you get stressed out about it is when you just don't have enough flow, right? If you're, you know, one of our clients came up with the term, but when you're drinking from a fire hose, you know, if I have 150 intros this month, and one of them ghosts me, you invest no emotional energy whatsoever into that. However, if I have 1 enrollment this week and my 1 enrollment fell apart, then I tend to get all kinds of hyperventilating about it, right? So the solution is probably, I mean, we can go through the other, but the solution to that is have more flow and have, you know, a higher active student body, right? So that, you know, that solves that problem. Well, what was the other thing you were saying, Darren?
I think that's it really. Just hopefully, you know, figuring out that the students completely ghosted, you know, signed them up, completely signed them up, got all their information, credit card.
I would spend 0 time worrying about that and 100% of my time working on improving your enrollment flow. You do have a very small percentage of population that's just not ethical, and they'll make commitments that they have no intention of committing. But then you have a more common problem, which is, you know, somebody overcommits to something and then figures out they can't really do it, and they're embarrassed about it. And then the second problem is that people's life are interesting, you know. So I sign up, and then you know, my son's mother, Jody, she signed up for an athletic, you know, format, and then immediately 2 weeks later found out she was going to go in and have surgery that had a 6 to 8 week recovery process. Well, you know, she can't do anything for 3 months now. And stuff like that happens. You know, grandmother goes to the hospital, and we're distracted. I blow the transmission out of the car, and it ends up being $3,000. You know, you can go through all the kind of things that happen in people's lives that have nothing to do with you, and then you go through of, is there anything you could have done better? And probably what you can do better is have more students coming in the front door, so you're not stressed about it.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The go ahead, Bob.
And yeah, and I was just going to do a follow-up, Darren. I'd love to set up time to also for you just to have a little one-on-one with Master Smith to see if he can kind of spotlight some areas to help you out with this.
Sure.
What's a good time for you? Let me just look at the calendar again. We're on Wednesday. It'll be tomorrow. He's going to be tied up for almost a week and a half. So how does 4 o'clock, or what time zone are you? I'm sorry, Darren.
I'm in Mountain Time.
Mountain. Okay. How does 2 o'clock tomorrow work?
At 2 o'clock should work.
Okay. So put it down 2 Mountain. All right. All right. And I'll set everything up for you guys and then follow up. Make sure you got he'll be on a Zoom link too. So that way you guys are face to face. Put together any notes though that you might have and questions or concerns that you're having right now and goals that you're looking to really hit. And so we can kind of expand upon that when we have that little private chat. All right.
Yeah, and everybody who's listening now or the replay, Bob, your number was 720
256-0208. And then I'm going to send over a free video for you guys also to kind of check out before you chat with Master Smith. Give him the background.
Yeah, and then we'll share with you guys an awful lot more content that has all the rest of the marketing that I didn't get around to, but I think you got something to get a good start with. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. I guess we have to go to our meeting that we're 22 minutes late for.
Yes, sir. All right. Good seeing you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for joining. All right. Good seeing you again.
Bob, did I mention how fun it was to pay almost $7 a gallon for gas to refill the?
Oh, 7 Up. Where was that? In LA or out here?
We were in Burbank, so
we're recording, sir. How do we stop?
Yep, I'm stopping. Yeah, we were in Burbank, so.